Welcome to the Heather Penny Podcast, where our goal is to help you reach your potential by increasing clarity, building confidence, and engaging courage. Dr. Heather Penny is a leadership coach, trusted advisor, and admired author. I'm Christina Morales, a writer and marketer, and Heather is my dear friend and my coach. So today we're continuing with our theme for April, Rebirth and Renewal. And I'm excited to discuss balancing your heart and your head. If any part of our life is out of balance, then we can't function to our optimum potential. So I thought talking about this balance would be a great way to press the reset button with our theme in mind. So, Heather, the first thing I thought of was gender stereotypes. We always think
Yeah.
of women being led by their hearts, men being led by their heads, and it's logic versus emotion. And I love old sitcoms, but it's like Carol Brady bumbling around and Mike Brady saying, "Now, dear, just calm down."
Yeah.
So, do you see this as a gender stereotype? Or are men and women made differently and that's okay?
Uh, well, I think that our society, and it doesn't matter where you grew up, honestly, has this tendency to polarize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's more from her heart. Oh, he's more from the head, or vice versa. And I think really what it's about is that individual owning the fact that they are both head and heart. Every human being has a head and a heart. They have a logical way of which they approach something that comes from the head, and they have an emotional way of which they approach something. Clearly, when you're in crisis, many of us are that respond well in crisis. We're just moving right into our head of we've got to get the job done. We've got to help the individual who's suffering. That's definitely a strong head approach. You're not going to want to sit down and start crying or weeping, and you don't want your surgeon to be doing that either when you
Right.
need their help. But one of the challenges is that when we're in relationships and it requires a heart response, we give a head response, and that's what hurts
Yes.
the relationships. Or when it requires a head response, like we have to figure out our bills and our finances in our marriage, and we have to make sure that we're stepping forward in that and being responsible. That's a little bit more of a head response. And if we're just melting down with it or pointing fingers or not wanting to discuss it, those are the heart that's kind of getting involved and making it a dysfunctional conversation. So I think the biggest thing is recognizing our world wants to polarize people and put them in categories. And
Mm-hmm.
I think with each human just kind of owning a true belief that says we all have the capabilities to live out of our head and our heart. It's those of us who learn how to integrate them well that I
Mm-hmm.
think begins to be really positive contributors to our society and to our relationships.
Mm-hmm. I like that you said that because, like, my husband, he can have a totally stressful day at work and he can compartmentalize it. And so
Mm-hmm.
he turns off his head, he turns off his heart, he can calm down for a little bit. But as a woman, it's not whether one dictates the other. Both of mine are revving at 120 miles an hour.
Yes.
So it's that balance too of not just balancing the head and heart, but maybe toning them down a bit. Is that true? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I do think people, and it is a little more stereotype, and I think it's a fair stereotype because it's the majority is usually working out this way, but a lot of men have the ability to compartmentalize, and it's just the
Mm-hmm.
way the brain works a little bit more. And females have the ability to keep everything kind of together and integrated. There's a shadow side to both and a strength to both. The
Mm-hmm.
compartmentalizing helps us put boundaries down. The connections help us see connections everywhere. So how you bring that to the marriage is really where it allows it to be a constructive conversation. And I'll give a personal example.
Mm-hmm.
I coach all day long and I work with people. I have to work on compartmentalizing. Once I get off the phone and somewhere between 3 p.m. or 5 p.m., and I've been working since 7 or 8 a.m., there's a tendency where I want to go process some of these things with my husband
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't been able to compartmentalize it. He also owns his own company. He's either traveling or on the phone all day as well. He never needs to talk to me about any of this stuff. Occasionally he'll tell me a funny story, but we're really aware of that in our relationship and how I kind of put the boundaries down and I invite him in to say, don't let me start talking about clients. My heart
Mm-hmm.
might be heavy for it, or I'm concerned, or I want to try and do something, or it was a hard day with conversations. I need to be able to put that boundary down and kind of put a boundary between my heart and my head. And
Mm-hmm.
and need to be able to offer more of my heart in the conversation without being distracted by the day I've had. And so that's where, even as a wife and a husband, we've had to kind of navigate the heart and head piece to make sure that we are able to give what we can and offer our strength in the relationship.
And we also have an added an added boundary we have to add, because we both work from home, and I know a lot of our listeners are probably working from home. And so it's not like you can just walk out the office, get in the parking lot, drive away, and leave it at work.
Right.
Like, we live and work in the same place. So how
Right.
do you manage that?
Well, yeah, I always joke it's a short commute from my office to the living room, right?
Right.
So I have to kind of own, if I'm able to do that well and engage with my husband and not feel distracted, it's working for me. If I can't, I want to take responsibility for that and bring an energy into the relationship that I want to offer, not an exhaustion or a tiredness or a weariness or a concern or a fear or whatever I've had to, go throughout the day. And so, but one of the things I will do is I will insert a commute. And that helps me, like taking a walk, moving outside, maybe going for an errand, doing something that allows me to put a boundary there, and it allows me to start kind of closing that chapter of my life to open up the chapter I want to open, and offer what I truly want to offer. Many of us kind of live as victims to what we live through the day, and we don't realize the power we have to compartmentalize and offer what you want. I want to offer what I want to offer really well to my husband, to my children, to my clients. And I want to make sure I'm offering the right thing, right? Not offering something that my husband needs to my clients, or something that my kids need to my husband. All of these things can get really tangled up. Yeah. And I think that's where you're understanding the head and the heart piece is every relationship needs you to be fully present in both of them. It's just how you integrate both the head and the heart is going to look very different in all these relationships. And the more you're aware of that, the more you're able to step into that and do it well.
That's so good. I love that. And I was thinking about this topic, and this is kind of what I came up with, and I want to know if you agree or disagree with me. So our head gives us direction while our heart fuels us into action. Like, knowledge without passion is inaction, and passion without direction has you just going in circles. What do you think?
Wow, I like that. I think we all need to find our verbiage for how we kind of draw the line between our head and our heart. And then we need to find the bridge to be able to bridge our head and heart. I think as you separate that out, that's really powerful, and that's going to help you operate and move forward in life. I think eventually moving that into a bridge of they're both. Both of them help you with action. And what was the other word you said? Vision or dreaming?
I said, that like our head gives us direction and our heart fuels us into action.
Okay. Direction and action. Those are the two words. Yeah. You initially kind of separate it out, and then you realize how one of them is helping the other. But then as you integrate more and more and you mature throughout life, both of them are giving you direction and action. So that's the ultimate goal, is always about integration. But when we're trying to figure out, why am I melting down or anxious or crying? These are heart responses, right? You want to separate it out because you want to pause long enough. And if you're high achievers, and I work with a lot of high achievers, I have to say, hey, your heart matters. And a lot of times they want to hear, no, it doesn't. I just need to get the job done. Yeah. I understand, but you seem really tired or fatigued, or if you are cranky or irritable with people. These are signs that your heart's getting pushed along, and it's trying to tell you, hey, this isn't a good move, or you got to slow this down, or you really got to listen to this person, or you were hoping this project would take 2 months, but you have to recognize it's probably going to take closer to 6 months. Or you thought you could do this job with just, 2 people, but it probably needs closer to 10 people to do this project. I mean, these are the things that your heart's trying to tell you, and you're right on. It helps then provide a really a purposeful direction for next steps. And a lot of times people want to go, emotions, what do they have to do with anything? It's the logic we get the kudos from. That's what we think is where the best goes. But I like to honor that is just saying, hey, we all have a gut. We all have an intuition. How do we keep integrating that? And that's that heart piece. It's constantly trying to show us the next steps on our path for that day. And one of the things that can really hold us back is trying to find a formula to control our life day to day. So maybe what worked yesterday isn't going to work today. That's a hard thing for a lot of my high achievers to grapple with, because it makes you feel vulnerable and out of control. You
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe speaking up in a meeting was what you needed to do yesterday in the workplace, but maybe being quiet today is exactly what you need to do.
Hmm.
And that's that head and heart that helps you navigate those tricky waters of relationships, a world that's constantly changing. You're constantly changing, evolving, and growing. Learning to say, hey, I got to listen to both my heart on this and my head on this allows you to create that really purposeful direction.
You brought up an interesting point that I want to talk about. You said your gut. You know, when you go with your gut, like sometimes it
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense on paper or
Mm.
logic, but you just know in your gut that it's the right thing to do. What do you think that is? What makes that the right intuition?
I love asking that question to both in my personal coaching and professional coaching, whether it's a leader in the workplace or a parent in the home or a wife in the marriage. I, after we've talked through a lot of our different options and they've gotten their clarity, I usually like to ask, okay, what's your gut telling you?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I say that, you can hear this exhale. They know, I have to go have this difficult conversation, or I've got to walk away from this situation,
Mm-hmm.
or I've got to let go, or I got to go hire another person, or I got to fire somebody, they know.
Mm-hmm.
And once they have that clarity, I just honor it and say, okay, you have this clarity. It's okay. We'll figure out that head piece of what to do next. But you do
Mm.
want to honor that your gut is telling you this isn't working. Stop trying,
Yeah.
do something different. Don't keep trying to do the old thing. That's usually what our gut's trying to tell us. And that's connected more to our heart.
We talked in a past episode about asking the right questions to get the direction you need.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that the answers are already in us. Like we know the answers, whether we acknowledge them or not. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the gut piece. Like what you're saying is you can struggle with your heart and your head, but in your gut, sometimes you just know.
Hmm.
And so that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
We all know, and I would say the older we get and the more life experience we have, the more we know. I'm moving into my 50th year here, and I'm listening to myself going, I've got 50 years of experience. I already know at a gut level some things and how they're going to work and where they're going to be going. That's
Mm-hmm.
just experience that's starting to talk with me. I would be foolish not to lean back on my hindsight of 2020 of reflecting back and keep trying to do it the way that I hope it'll turn out or the way I want it to turn out. What
Mm-hmm.
I try and do is, especially as we are aging as individuals, is saying, hey, your gut's really right on.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to trust your gut. And I think that if you stop and really honor your gut, um, it's a little trickier to do when you're younger because you're so fearful of, if I listen to my gut, I don't have the skill set on how to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's why I try and honor, some of these people I work with in their 20s. I say, oh, your gut's still speaking to you. Don't let yourself get paralyzed by fear just because you don't know what to do next. But if your
Mm-hmm.
gut's telling you to hesitate, or it's telling you to speak up, or it's telling you to walk away, you want to listen to that. Now, as your coach, I will help you develop the skill sets you need and the tools that you need in order to accomplish what you think you need to do. Many
Mm-hmm.
times in our 20s and our younger years, we ignore our gut because we don't know what to do. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to resign. I don't know how to resign. I'm just going to keep enduring this really bad boss. Or I'm failing if I resign. We don't have the life experience yet
Mm.
to be able to act on our gut. And I think that's where I have a lot of compassion for our younger leaders, our younger individuals who are trying to navigate life and listen to their gut, but then they back off because they get really nervous that maybe their gut's wrong and everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
right. So they keep trying to push through. And of course, we know where that ends. They get,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the depression, the anxiety, the frustration, the anger is all starting to come up in our society. We're ignoring our gut and we're fearful that our gut is off.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I was going to say too, is like I'm scared to listen to my gut because of fear. Like, okay,
Mhm.
I have this big dream and my gut says go for it, but now I'm scared. But then if I live in fear, then I'm going to live with the struggle of what if. And so when you know it's the right thing to do and the right path, you got to go with your gut. And it doesn't even have to be just emotion. It can still be you have the talent and you have the potential to reach it. And
Yes.
so that's why it's in your gut, is because you know you can do it.
Yeah. And your gut, once you kind of really get that raw core center of, I need to do XYZ, I need to leave this job, I need to have this conversation. For me, I need to write a book.
Yeah.
Once you have that clarity, it can be very hard to move forward. And that's where we bring in professionals. I
Yeah.
hired my own writing coach. Why? Because I
Mhm.
knew I had to write a book, but for 2 years, I could not move forward in it. So
Mhm.
my gut was right. My skill set just wasn't there. And that was
Mhm.
okay. That's where I get to hire professionals to say, okay, here's how you write here's how you write a chapter. Here's how you publish a book. Okay. And here's how we market a book. You bring in those people that help give you that skill set because your gut's still there. So you're always leveling up in life. And it's less about trying to get it right all the time and really developing the ability and the awareness to say, okay, I'm listening to my gut, but I am overwhelmed with how to move forward with my gut. If
Mhm.
we can stay in that honest space, you talk about head and heart. Your heart is scared to move forward, but your head is saying, we can do this, or can we? And then you're bringing in people that says, hey, I'm trying to listen to my gut here. And I don't have a clue of how to do this, or this. Can you help me with this? And then you start taking that journey. And that's how we level up as individuals. But it all starts with listening to your gut.
Mhm. I love it because we all have some journey in our heart right now that
Mhm.
we need to listen to our gut. And I think we just need to change that word because I don't like that word gut. So we need to find something better to say.
Right. The intuition is probably a better word, or your inner wisdom. These are
Yes.
other words,
Okay.
right?
My gut is saying we need to change that word.
Yes. Our instinct. Choose whatever word you like, because I definitely change the verbiage depending whatever client I'm talking to. A
Okay.
lot of the men I work with, they love the word gut. My gut says this, this, and this.
Okay. Mhm.
Or if they're in a stressful position, which a lot of my leaders are that I'm working with, they just want to say, my gut's telling me this. It feels powerful for them. If it's more personal
Interesting.
coaching, I will notice, well, what's your instinct? What's your intuition telling you? What's your inner wisdom telling you? That it's a softer touch. They love that. So the verbiage is really important. I'm glad you picked up on that.
That's funny. Well, this is like so pertinent for me right now. I told you we're house hunting, and my gut, my instinct is telling me to go for this one house, and it's like out of our budget a little bit, and it's going to take a lot of faith, but I just know. And I've been
Yeah.
looking at all these lesser houses, and I don't want to live with that what if, because I know
Yeah.
that we have the potential. We can make it happen. It's just scary, but I don't want to live in that what if, and I don't want to compromise my dream either.
Oh, I totally know what you mean. I went through a similar journey with my home, and I had to work through it with my husband as my life partner, saying, yeah, this one would be a safer bet, but this one, this one allows us to expand and to dream and to vision. And so it was a risk, but sure enough, both our companies really picked up and we had the space that we needed. And something in my gut was telling me, I think we're going to need more space. So yeah, I totally get it.
I love that. Like room to grow. You need to dream big because if you compartmentalize your dream, then it can't grow.
Yeah,
So,
right. And that's the heart piece, and the
yeah,
head piece is we had to look at it all on paper.
right.
We had to see where the deficit was, and then we had to figure out how we were going to close the gap. But it all worked out because we were able to have our clarity both in our heart piece and our head piece.
Right. And that's just it. It's a balance where you're not going to be stupid and find something where there's no way you can. I'm not going to do a mansion. But exactly.
Right,
You need
right.
a balance logic there too. And is there a time when you took over in a situation and it ended poorly, like your heart took over or your head took over and your compassion took a back seat? What happened? Like with your children or with your husband? What does that look like?
Oh my gosh, I have too many stories to count because I'm a passionate individual. I'm all in whatever I do,
Yeah.
whether it's my personal friendships. Some of them I loved them so much I suffocated the heck out of them. And sometimes the friends that have just so loved me over the years have said, we love you, but can we talk about this, and this, and I've just said, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Thank you for talking to me. This is out of my strong intent of deeply wanting to love you and care for you, but
Mm.
if it's not helping, I sure want to know.
Yeah.
That's one example. Another example is my teenage kids, who I was when they were toddlers and little kids. It was a strong, influential presence in their life, and it worked. As they aged, they're like, we don't want your opinions and your ideas as much as you think
Right.
we do. And I think once I started saying, oh, okay, what do you want from me? We want you to listen. We want you to stay curious with us. We want you to laugh with us. We want you to play with us. We want you to trust us. And I think I had to really shift into, what do you think about this? And as I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they've both made very great life decisions. And so I'm really serving more as their kind of their outside advisor. If they want to come to me about something, they can, but I need to wait till they ask me to. Meanwhile, I get to enjoy them. I've worked hard with them as a parent, and now I get to know them in a way that they're young adults joining society, and they're going to be moving more and more into my peers. And I want them to feel that. I want them to feel this deep connection, even though I've been their mother, that I think they're fabulous human beings, and I want to get to know them in a way that they feel honored and respected. That's a whole different conversation. So how many times do I bite my tongue now and say, oh, I'm going to give them my big opinion because I know that will really help them, and they'll stand and applaud me and say, thank you, mother. No, Heather. No. What I want to do is just ask questions, stay curious, and help them come to the decision they want to do. And sometimes, and I've even noticed this with my older daughter, she'll want a little bit more of, can you tell me the answer? And I'm realizing, you're 18. I don't want to tell you the answer for your life, but I want to stay in it with you and help you think through it. And I'll be here to help you think through whatever you need to think through. But you got to make the decision for you, and you get to take as long as you need to make the decision. Many times our younger generation feels a pressure they have to resolve it now. What I try and do is just, I'll stay in the gray with you until you figure out which way you're going to go. Is it going to be a green light or a red light, or what do you need to do with this? My job is to help her see all the options and that she's never trapped.
That is a great example of balancing your head and heart, because your heart could break and go, oh, my babies are grown up. You need to need me.
Yeah.
My whole life has been you. You need to need me. But you're using your head to choose, okay, yeah. I'm not going to see this as rejection. I'm going to see this as I did my job right, and they're independent and they're making good decisions. And so that is an excellent example you gave.
Right. And I'm getting to know them as adults. They have a whole different world and they want to tell me about it. And I want to hear it. And I don't want them to feel like I'm comparing it to my world or I've got plans for their world. They are completely individual human beings. And the more I help them individuate, and not misquote these younger years, that's always our end game as parents. How do we launch these positive contributors to our society? So when it happens, we got to start celebrating it. And I'm not going to lie to you. There's days where I miss my little 3-year-old wrapping his arms around his neck, thinking I'm the most amazing thing in the world. When he's over there rolling his eyes at me going, oh, there goes mom again. Yeah, I miss that little cute 3-year-old. He adored me. He thought I was amazing. I so miss that. But then that becomes the ego. That's all I'm trying to focus on.
And that's when you get dogs.
Exactly. Dogs, and you wait for the grandkids, I guess.
But that's a long way off.
Oh, long way off. Thank you. Long. I'll enjoy other people's grandkids right now.
Yes. And I feel like emotions get a bad rap these days. Like, I totally get, I'm going to go in a difficult place. So here's your warning. I'm going there.
Okay.
I totally get that some people have a chemical imbalance and need medication, but I also feel like people are overwhelmed and they're just given a pill. Now, I'm going to be totally open. I'm on Cymbalta. I'm on antidepressants, and I've been on them for like 20 years. And I don't know if that's the right thing. But it's really hard because we, like you said, we want that quick answer. Like young people these days want that quick answer. We want that quick fix. And it feels like we get overwhelmed and then we need outside help and we get like medication. And valid, some people definitely need that. I'm not going to take that away. That's valid. Yeah. But have you seen this, that we don't know how to manage our emotions?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Certainly. And I think that I have so much compassion, and I'm with you. I have zero judgment. Whatever we need to do to cope with our our upbringing or some of the challenges we've had to face in life. But regardless of whether anyone's on meds or not, I always want to say, let's start recognizing the complexity of your emotions and let's
Mm-hmm.
honor them. And, that's why I use that emotional category sheet, which I still have to get over to. I forgot about that.
Yes.
We talked about another podcast, but
Right.
I use it all the time. It's just a one-page sheet. I have it on my phone quite a bit, but it helps you understand. And there's 7 main categories, like respect, love, safety, trust. These are 7 of the main categories. And there's lots of emotional categories out there. This is one I just like using because it's real simple for me. But it shows you and highlights the complexities of our emotions. And then if there's a myriad of them, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 all swirled in there, this is why we're melting down. This is why we don't know what to do. What I like to do is help people, and this is the head piece, actually use your logic to start separating out your top 3 emotions. That's actually an interesting concept for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to being victims of their emotions, and their emotions just take over, or they try and stuff them down. My goal is to help them be really honest with themselves and honor what their emotions are and to name them. Knowledge is power. Once they name them, you can hear the relief in their voice and they go, oh, I felt humiliated. When my boss talked to me that way, it was so humiliating.
Mm-hmm.
5 other people were watching. I felt totally disrespected. The 3 direct reports were sitting there staring at me while my boss was chewing me out. These are really hard emotions that people are grappling with. In the marriage too. I feel unheard. I feel like I don't matter. I feel unvalued. I feel unloved. To be able to list what they are helps you to go into the conversation and say, hey, this is not working for me. Do you care that this isn't working for me?
Mm-hmm.
And typically the other person usually cares. They have no idea that person was humiliated, or they don't realize their impact. Nobody wants to humiliate someone. Now, there could be, and I shouldn't say nobody wants to, because you have the extreme power control people that say, I humiliated you. Good. I was trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wow. Then you see what you're dealing with.
Right.
But either way, owning what your emotions are and being able to name them, that's actually a head exercise. And that's a hard exercise. You have to get in touch with your inner self and what you're feeling. Maybe if it feels familiar. Yeah, my dad used to scream and yell at me when I was 12, and I felt like the same way. And here I am, a 38-year-old employee, and I'm feeling that when my boss did it. I go, ooh, that's a double whammy then. That felt like all of a sudden you were reduced to 12 years old and everyone's watching you. Yeah, it was humiliating. So I'm helping them separate that out and then supporting them in the skill set to be able to move forward and say, well, how do you want to step forward in this? What conversation do you want to have with this individual? What's the trust level in that relationship? Can it support a difficult conversation? And to what degree? Then we move more into that head piece to really design a kind of a skill set to move forward. But it all starts with identifying what's going on in the heart level so that we can find our language and our words to be able to move forward. And you can see that it's the heart and the head just all beautifully swirling around in there because we're complex human beings. And I think sometimes medication starts making us feel like we can't do it. And I always want to tell people, you didn't fail because you're taking medication. You still can do it. You know what? If the medication is helping you organize your emotions more power to you. Just don't check out of your emotions. Don't say, oh, I don't have to feel anything now. That's where it gets dangerous because we lose our power. We lose our intuition. We lose our instinct. We lose what our inner wisdom is trying to tell us because we're so relieved that we're not feeling those difficult, hard things again.
You wrote something that I thought was so profound, and you're going to have to re-say it because I'm going to quote you wrong.
Okay.
It's like, we're not broken. That's okay. We're not broken. We just have to process better. We need the tools, and that's what you're giving us. So what is your quote that you have with that?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure if I know.
Well, whatever you say, it's your own quote, so it's okay. But quote yourself.
I'll just own it. Yeah, I'm going to own it. Yeah. I do hear people want to talk about being fixed or being broken. And that's a head response to hard places in our life. And what I would like to do is try and help people honor it and say, no, we're not broken. There's nothing here to be fixed. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. You're just on that next level. You're ready to level up. and it's uncomfortable, but we can be comfortable with the uncomfortableness because this means you're growing.
Mm.
It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're ready for something new. So let's talk about what that newness is. Let's get our clarity on where it feels off and you've outgrown the way you're doing life. Now let's get something that's going to help you move forward in life because you're feeling stuck or unloved or fearful of stepping out. There's all these different reasons of why we don't move forward in life. And then we immediately go to, I'm broke. I need to be fixed. And I believe that if I let people think that, and they think that I'm the fixer, wow, I just unempowered them. They're not broke, nor am I the fixer. All they're going to do is basically just set your backpack down a little bit, the journey you've been on, set your backpack down, pull over to the side of the road here. Let's kind of pull out our map here, take a look at it together, and then you'll know where you're going to go next. I promise you. Every person knows where to go next. I just want to help you give the grace to stop and pull off to the side and get in touch with your inner wisdom again. And then you'll be able to put that backpack back on and step out and go get the life you want. But if we're constantly trudging along thinking we're broke and we need someone to, quote, fix us, first of all, we're giving away our power of who we really can be as a human being. But second of all, we're not honoring the fact that humans don't get broke. They get hurt. They get, life beats us up. Some of us have many hard starts in life. There's nothing broken about individuals. There's only things that we're starting to have this clarity on, saying, I don't think I like this, or this is really uncomfortable, or I think I need more. And that's where I want to come alongside and honor them and say, yeah, you can do this. You can get the life you want.
And how do we measure when our heart and head are in balance? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing journey. There's seasons where my heart and my head are a little off balance. I went through one recently, and I think it was the effects of COVID, to be honest, and the strain of what I was living with my own personal life, the strain of what, I was hearing conversation after conversation, the stress, that takes a toll on an individual, So I think just recognizing when you feel a little off. For me, I get very fatigued. I get tired. I start overeating. I look to anything to try and comfort myself. I might get really frustrated to people. I try and control things because I'm feeling out of control. These are all things that I try and stop and recognize. And I think it's less about getting it. It's not at all about getting it perfect. It's always about, oops, you're really tired. You got to get some gas in the gas tank there. And you've got to refuel over here, and you've got to stop and recenter. So, and I felt that last weekend that I could feel some of the irritation rising again. And I don't want to be an irritated person, but I get irritated when I'm tired. That's just a simple thing. And so I remember us waking up and I said, let's go and play for the day. And my husband had the day off too. And we ended up just taking off to the beach for a couple of days, actually. And everything just worked out beautifully because we just needed a break, and I needed to step away from my life. So I think it's more about recognizing when you feel off that helps you better integrate your head and heart. And I think many of us, we push through the signs. We stay irritated. We stay frustrated. We keep overeating. We keep over whatever we do for self-comfort. Clearly food is something I think about, but it could be anything.
Me too.
Yeah.
Shopping.
Did you get a little fluffy during COVID like me,
Christina? Oh, Lord. Yes. Thank God Costco had pants on sale for $5.50. I bought 4 pairs.
Yeah, we were walking this morning with a friend, and she was so funny. She goes, Head, I can't do the 3-mile route. We got to do the flat 2-mile route, and we got to take it slow. She goes, COVID had just exhausted me. I've eaten my stress through the whole thing. I go, I understand, my friend. So I think, and again, it's just honoring that. Why are we overeating? And yet still being kind. We're staying curious with ourselves, and yet integrating the head and the heart. Okay, I put on 10 pounds. COVID has totally stressed me out. I'm overreaching for things. That means I need to up my game and be a little more strategic on what I need to comfort myself. Take more walks. I've gotten into some audio books that are really fun. I just find that I just put it in my ear and take off for a walk. And it's just these great novels, and I just relax, and it helps me enter another world because my world can be kind of stressful.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you. That's all the time we have
You're
for
welcome.
today. That was so helpful. I mean, goodness,
Oh,
this is always so
good.
helpful. And I'm so glad that we get to record these because they help
Mhm.
me and I know they're going to help our audience, like so many people. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your experiences and your wisdom with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so fun to have such great listeners. We're getting some fun feedback on it, and I'm
Mhm.
grateful for everyone listening.
Absolutely. So join us next week when we talk about growing your confidence. Please subscribe to the Heather Penny podcast. And for questions, comments, and resources, visit heatherpenny.com. Remember, to live your best life, you have to live intentionally. Have a great day, and we can't wait for you to join us next week. Thanks, Heather.
You're welcome. See you, everyone.